Here in Delaware, U.S. law enforcement have unveiled a unique set of historical documents. Nearly 70 years after they wandered off from the archives of the Nuremberg Trials, the diaries of Alfred Rosenberg, one of the chief architects of the Holocaust, have been recovered. The story of the Rosenberg Diaries begins in Nazi Germany and ends in a small town north of Buffalo, New York.
Agents from ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Office in Wilmington tracked the diary down and seized it for formal forfeiture proceedings. We believe that what we have recovered is the original diary and that there are no copies.
Dr. Robert Kempner was the chief prosecutor for the Ministries case at the Nuremberg Trials, including the prosecution of Alfred Rosenberg.
The diary was seized by the victorious Allies, and portions were used by the prosecution at Nuremberg. Sometime between 1946 and 1949, however, most of the diary wandered off and was lost to history. Lost, that is, until now. After more than 60 years of mystery, we now know that the diary was smuggled into the United States, likely by Dr. Robert Kempner, one of the U.S. prosecutors at Nuremberg. It has been here in the United States ever since.
It was his employees back in the U.S. who first hinted that Dr. Kempner had the key documents from the Nazi era, perhaps even the diaries. It took 17 years and many questions to finally recover the documents.
It is our job to rescue this evidence, not only large amounts like important material like this, but also very important, the personal papers of survivors, of perpetrators, and of bystanders to the crimes.
Dr. Kempner's children had promised to give his papers to the Holocaust Museum, but U.S. law enforcement was forced to get involved after years of delays and missing documents. One fact is known about how Dr. Kempner got so many Nazi documents.
He received a memo from the, so to speak, the chief archivist of the trials. And this memo, which is in his personal papers, is very brief, and it says, basically, Robert Kempner has the right to remove anything from this evidence for his own use, for his own research and publishing purpose.
Adolf Hitler himself called Alfred Rosenberg the church father of National Socialism, the Nazi movement.
Reading Rosenberg's diary is to stare into the mind of a dark soul, a man untroubled by the isolation and violent extermination of Jews and others he deemed undesirable, a man consumed with visions of racial and ethnic superiority.
A preliminary U.S. government assessment suggests the diaries will offer new insight into meetings with Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, and Hermann Goering. There are also details about Nazi policy discussions, including the occupation of the Soviet Union and plans to target Jews there. The researchers of the Holocaust Museum have only had a few brief hours to review the 400 pages of the Rosenberg diaries. The next step is to begin a deep dive into the innermost thoughts of the man who helped craft one of the darkest hours of the 20th century. This is Priscilla Huff for JN1 in Wilmington, Delaware.